All right, so I'm excited to dive into a review of Licorice Pizza. This is another Paul Thomas Anderson film. It was released in 2021, and this one is more of a rom-com slash drama. I actually watched this on Halloween this year. Why did I watch this movie? My wife and I actually have a list of 50 or so movies on our watch list that we collaborated to compile. This is the second PTA movie in a row, which is pretty crazy because we choose our next movie from the list completely at random. And anyways, all of PTA's filmography is on our watch list now, as we both really enjoyed seeing One Battle After Another in theaters and wanted to see the rest of his movies. This is now the third PTA film that we've seen, and I'm excited to go through my thoughts with you today. So let's dive in. So the plot of this film is pretty straightforward. There's a 15-year-old teen actor named Gary Valentine who is in a will they, won't they situationship, we'll say, with 25-year-old photography assistant Alana Kane. It's a bit problematic for me, for the record, and they acknowledge this in the movie, but we'll get into that. Anyways, it's a fictional story that takes place in Los Angeles in the 70s, so same location and time period as Boogie Nights for reference. When it comes to the themes that the movie is really trying to express or dive into, I would say that it really captures the feeling of wanting someone when you can't have them, but then when they are attainable, all of a sudden you no longer have a desire to pursue them. Both Gary and Alana did that to each other multiple times throughout the film, and from that standpoint, it was pretty relatable. The other theme that I thought PTA was exploring in this was that of power dynamics. Who controls the power when the 15-year-old is wealthy and can gainfully employ the 25-year-old? Alana's character was never looking to take control of her life and was looking for a man to get her out of her current home life and into the upper class and the life that she wanted, but she had to come to terms with needing more than money when relationship after relationship continued to fail. Although Gary was a successful child actor and a businessman, he was still at the whim of multiple different people or forces throughout the movie. The person with the most power changed from scene to scene, which at least kept it somewhat interesting. How effective or original is this story? Once again, with a PTA movie, I can't say that I've seen a movie that covers the exact subject matter as this one before. He is 3 for 3 on writing and directing movies about new subject matter for me, so I do have to give him some credit there. There was nothing nefarious about the actions of either of our leads, but I did honestly find it hard to move past the fact that the age gap was so large and that he was so young. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Moving on to the characters and the acting performances, our leads were played by two newcomers to the screen for me. Cooper Hoffman played Gary Valentine, the 15-year-old, and Alana Haim played Alana Kane, the 25-year-old. And while doing some research for this review, I discovered that Cooper Hoffman is actually the son of Philip Seymour Hoffman, which is wild. Philip had a small but memorable role in Boogie Nights, so it's cool to see Cooper collaborating with PTA as well, following in his father's footsteps. Also, while watching the credits, it's revealed that Alana Haim's family plays Alana Kane's family in the movie, which is also pretty cool. I also learned that PTA directed some music videos for the Haim sisters, so there's a whole bunch of connections there. There's also small roles for Skylar Gisondo and Mary Elizabeth Ellis, a little bit of a Santa Clarita Diet reunion. That was nice to see. My wife and I enjoyed that show. I also loved Skylar in Booksmart and Mary in Always Sunny, for what it's worth. Definitely recommend those if you haven't seen them. Also, with some smaller roles, there was Benny Safety, Sean Penn, Maya Rudolph, and most notably Bradley Cooper. I think both Alana and Cooper did fantastic with their acting performances as the leads. I can't think of a single scene from either of them where I didn't believe what they were saying. Other than those two, everyone else in the movie, unfortunately, was treated like a side character and they didn't get as much time to shine. If I had to pick one actor who really stole the show with their limited screen time, it would have to be Bradley Cooper. His introduction scene was great. Skyler got a smile out of me every time he was on screen, but then his character unfortunately just disappeared 30 minutes into the movie. It was just really disappointing for me to go from the wide range of fully fleshed out characters that I grew to know and love and cheer for in Boogie Nights to these barely half baked characters in Licorice Pizza. I would have liked to know more about just about every single character than what was shown or written here. However, before I wrap up this section, I did want to give a shout out to Ray Chase, whose 1 minute of screen time was simply giving an ad reading for having one of the best radio DJ voices I've ever heard. Buttery smooth. I was ready to pick up the phone and order whatever he was selling. So shout out to Ray Chase. Moving on to visuals and cinematography, just like with Boogie Nights, there was a long single shot that introduced us to our characters. Well, really, it was two longer shots tied together, but still, it's a very effective way to kick off a movie for me. There was also a couple of cool shots that used reflections very effectively. I'm thinking particularly of when one character is released from police custody at the police station, and also when Alana is at dinner near the end of the movie. I always like trying to figure out how the heck directors can hide their cameras when dealing with mirrors or reflective surfaces. So that's always really cool to see those types of shots. As far as costumes go, because I feel like that kind of falls under visuals, my wife loved all of Alana's outfits, mentioning that they were, quote, so cute. I thought the costumes were all solid and fit the time period, and the vehicles were definitely era appropriate. One negative that I had in this category was that Bradley Cooper's wig was kind of distractingly egregious to me, but nothing else really stood out good or bad in this regard. It was just fine. So now to discuss sound and music, some of my favorite parts of movies. Although this was the second PTA in a movie in a row that I had watched that takes place in the 1970s, this soundtrack was considerably worse for me, or perhaps the needle drops just weren't as impactful in this one. Really, the only time that I felt a song really conveyed the emotions of a scene was when the song Seven Rooms of Gloom by the Four Tops started playing. This was an emotionally charged scene near the end, and the music captured that feeling of heartbreak and resentment perfectly, in my opinion. Outside of this one scene, there were a few good songs by the likes of David Bowie, Paul McCartney, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. But I just didn't really think they really added anything to the scenes that they played during, unfortunately. If anything, this movie helped me realize that soundtracks shouldn't just contain good songs, but good songs that align with the context of the scene at an emotional level. In that regard, thank you, Licorice Pizza. And to wrap up here, just going through the writing and the dialogue between the actors, I thought the writing of our main two characters made sense. I enjoyed the dynamics of Alana's family as well, which was probably aided by the fact that they were literally family and had some level of comfortability having worked with PTA before. That really came through on the screen for me. However, probably my biggest complaint about this movie, besides the problematic underage creepy love story, was the writing of every other character and general flow of the story. Gary is creating a new business after new business. Like every other scene, he's got a new business. And Alana is all of a sudden working with a guy running for office. There's a man stalking that politician. Gary's mom is busy with work and seems to have a good relationship with her son, but we don't know any motivations between or behind any of these people. Sean Penn's character is a caricature of a has-been movie star and really added nothing for me. The most memorable scenes were absolutely with Bradley Cooper. He brought some life to the movie. I can't really think of many memorable lines, unfortunately, except for when his character, John Peters, made fun of Gary for not being able to drive, although that was also contradicted not soon after when Gary got in a car and drove it. But I also wanted to mention that literally just this week I had looked up the 1961 movie Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's an Audrey Hepburn classic. Just to see the name of the male lead in that movie, I thought it was someone else, but it turned out his name was George Peppard, and I had never heard his name before. And then George was name dropped in this movie, which was pretty crazy. And I think it's an example of that Bader Meinhof phenomenon, or that recency phenomenon. But I just had to share that out. Shout out to George Peppard. So to wrap things up with my overall thoughts and rating and who I'd recommend this to, overall I was pretty meh on this movie. There was some good pieces like the performance of the leads and a few good song choices and cool shots. However, the writing was really subpar for me, and the characters were underdeveloped, and the plot was really not one that I could get behind for reasons that I've explained earlier. So once again, I find this movie to be difficult to recommend. Firstly, because I didn't love it that much in the first place, but also because of the subject matter again. I think if anyone was a big fan of Philip Seymour Hoffman and wanted to see his son take on a lead role, then it would be worth a watch. If you're a big fan of Alana Haim's music or a PTA completionist, then have at it. Otherwise, just watch Bradley Cooper's parts on YouTube or something and call it a day. So, overall, I would give this movie a disappointing 2.5 out of 5. Just kind of a middle of the road movie for me. Thanks for watching.